an impossible project. But this is a man of incredible capability, so he took on such a project. And he started putting together a being of every kind of quality that you can think of. This longing must have come because this is just after Shiva, the Adi Yogi, left. They must have been missing him. They must have been missing him so badly that the longing to create a perfect being must have been a natural longing and maybe a natural project to take up. We believe Sunira was just the next generation after Saptarishis. He lived and worked in the mountains which are presently in Nepal, and she took on an impossible project.
We believe Sunira was just the next generation after Saptarishis. Is there any such reference in any sacred book, anything that the Hindus call sacred? Is there any reference to a Rishi Sunira or a Yogi Sunira who is some kind of a successor of the Saptarishis in any kind of Hindu scripture?
Sunira saw that human consciousness could be evolved if you produce a perfect human being who could render this to all sorts of people. In a way, he comes from the tradition of Shiva. Somewhere it's his dream to build another being like that. He wants to build a living Shiva.
Okay, pause. He wants to build a living Shiva. He wants to build another perfect being like Shiva. Have you heard anything like it in any of your Hindu scriptures? I don't think so. You see, where this is going is, it sounds like Hinduism. It sounds like it is supported by Hindu scriptures, because you are saying words like yogi and you are giving names like Sunira. What is it based on? What is this story based on? Have we now reached a point, have Hindus now reached a point where anyone with a big white beard who calls himself a Sadhguru gets to make a brand new story? Tell me which Veda has mentioned the things that he says. Tell me which Upanishad, tell me which Purana, tell me which Hindu text of any authority says the things that he is saying.
He took on an impossible project. He was an incredible guru, but he was not happy with himself. He wanted to create that kind of a being who is absolutely perfect and always. Synthetic stuff is not of 20th or 21st centuries making, way back. He wanted to create a synthetic being, a perfect being, who will become a perfect teacher, who will become the ultimate redeemer of humanity. An impossible project. But this is a man of incredible capability, so he took on such a project. And he started putting together a being of every kind of quality that you can think of. This longing must have come because this is just after Shiva, the Adi Yogi, left. They must have been missing him.
You know, if you watched X-Men or Iron Man or any of those Marvel Comics movies, if you watched any of the Marvel movies, you will know what an origin story is. Sadhguru Jaggi Vasudev creates an origin story for himself. He's basically saying, I am born of a prophecy. I am the result of a prophecy and multiple reincarnations, and I have been divinely ordained to create the Dhyana Linga. And he claims that it is a being, a person. He is claiming more than just the ability to create an idol or a temple or a place of worship. He is saying that in Dhyanalinga, he has created a person, an actual God, not just an idol, but an actual living.
A living Shiva, once again, a perfect teacher for the world, who is completely multidimensional, not this kind of teaching or that kind of teaching. As Shiva explored the whole human consciousness and human body in every possible way, he wants that kind of a living being. So he started building the energy body for that kind, and then he believed that he could build a physical body on top of that and let him loose in the world. With a lifespan of a few hundred or thousand years, so that he will transform the whole world by the time his time is done.
Okay, pause. A yogi, a human being, not giving birth to, but creating a god? I haven't come across any such claim or any such story in any Upanishad or Vedas or any Hindu text. Please correct me if I'm wrong.
So he started working on this project. And of course he died unfulfilled. So here and there, down these 40,000 years, many ambitious yogis picked up the same project that Sunira had left and tried to reconstruct.
Down these 40,000 years, he said. He's talking about Sunira being 40,000 years old. Now let's be clear, the Vedas are supposed to be no older than 5,000 years. Check it out, the Vedas are supposedly dating back to the Iron Age of India, which is about 1800 BC at most. Still we can give it another 1200 years and let us say 5,000 years. So Vedic texts, Vedic religion, Vedas, the earliest origins of Hinduism are around 5,000 years old. That's my understanding. Correct me if I'm wrong. Do you know of something which is coming from 40,000 years ago? He says many yogis tried to replicate this. Is there any record of this? Many others tried, he says. If many others tried, we have many records of yagnas and so on, rituals and enterprises of Hindu sages. Is there anything about recreating Shiva by artificial means undertaken by a group of sages or a succession of sages or any school of thought in Hinduism?
This energy body of a perfect teacher who can transform human consciousness. They called him Maitreya. Maitreya means a friend, a true friend to the humanity, to come and change humanity, the world teacher. Generation after generation, many yogis tried to continue to work on the same half-made project of Sunira. It's always been in the yogic lore, but in the last century, it came to the surface.
He says this effort to create the perfect teacher has been always part of the yogic lore, yogic stories. Is it so? Please cite some of these to me. I'll be very happy to know. It will be useful for all of us.
It came to social knowledge because the Theosophists worked on it. An Abyssant, Leadbeater, and Madam whatever her name, I can never pronounce, Blavatsky. And they tried to locate this being. They had the knowledge, but they did not have the capability. Twice they made serious effort to simply declare that they have completed the project, the perfect being has come. But it did not work. Another parallel line was also being drawn for the last couple of millenniums, where another set of yogis who were aware of this Sunira's glorious but quite impossible project, they started working upon a similar force to create a similar possibility.
It's very interesting that he makes this huge claim that it is a continuing effort of yogis, sages, of Hinduism basically, of the Hindu culture, that there was a continuing effort to create a teacher, a world teacher. So there is supposed to be an effort over the last couple of millennium by many other yogis to create this perfect being, says Sadhguru Jaggi Vasudev. Based on what exactly? Based on what texts? Based on who else saying this?
Creating a perfect being, but not as a human being, not in human form.
There are previous experiences of creating or attempting to create Dhyanalingas in many places. Any number of projects have started in the last 2000, 3000 years and they've been abandoned halfway because of some problem or the other. In Bhojpur, they attempted a Dhyanalinga about 1,000 years ago, little more than 1,000 years ago. This was supported by a local king, so it was hugely funded and they built a magnificent temple which is half done and the rest of the plans they drew it on the stone, The lingam itself, they worked on it for more than 3 years. They had 14 people working on it, one yogi who started this whole process. But this yogi worked for over 2 years and produced these 14 people, 7 men and 7 women, of enormous or extraordinary accomplishment, and they started working. They created this lingam almost 95% done. But at that time an invasion happened.
For enlightenment, not just as teachings, not just as practices that one can do, but living tools that people can walk through, living tools
by which people can be impacted towards that process has always been the great desire of the yogis. One of them who had such a desire fixed me up for the job.
My physical proximity with him was just for a few minutes. It is in these few moments that this fabulous crafty man enslaved me for his project. Everything that I did was around it because it was my Guru's dream and it was his vision that the Dhyanalinga has to be established.
So this thing about this fabulous crafty man who enslaved him, there's another way of putting it, and I think that is what Sadhguru is claiming. I was chosen for the job of creating the Dhyana Linga. I am the chosen one. This is a kind of a subtext that you hear, or this is the kind of a conclusion that you are expected to draw. I am the chosen one. Needless to say, being the chosen one brings with it a lot of adulation, a lot of reverence, a lot of privileges.
I think I must tell you something about the madness from where I come. After 2 lifetimes of heartbreaking sadhana, very intense, very truly heartbreaking sadhana. These 2 lifetimes, I was referred to by people as Shiva Yogi.
Okay, so now he is claiming to remember 2 lifetimes of heartbreaking sadhana. That's a claim. Where's the evidence? Nope, no evidence. I remember, he says.
And when it was needed, when my Guru appeared, that he did not feel fit to touch me, he touched me with his stick. And everything that needs to be realized was realized. I was at the very peak of anything can be. That being was referred to as Shiva Yogi, trying to fulfill the mission that was put into him. Didn't work. Came back again. I said, Guru Sri Brahma, tried very hard, almost successful, but couldn't fix the goodwill in the society because the intensity of who he is could not be understood in the social circumstances. He couldn't fulfill that. He prepared a few people and then went up the mountain. He was checking himself, why has he failed? He's got everything. Why is it didn't happen? He knew it's not that he lacks the competence, it's just that he did not garner the social support that was needed. So he went up the mountain for the last time. Before going up, he announced here at the foothills, a few of his disciples gathered. They said, "What now?" He said, "Even Tirpi Varvan, that means this one will be back again." And he went up the mountain for the last time. And he did a rare thing. He left his body through all his 7 chakras at the same time. He's just checking himself. He knows it's not so, but still the first blame should be on you when something doesn't work. So he's checking in case I'm not good or I'm not good enough. So he left his body through all his 7 chakras. This phenomenal energy, this very distinct energy which is nowhere else, you can experience on the 7th hill. It's very, very different from anything that you would find anywhere. It's distinctly different.
So this hill on which he has built the Dhyana Linga is now given an origin story, a mystical origin story, why it had to be built right here. It dates back to 40,000 years ago and has a continuity through all these ages. And it comes down to this guy, this Shiva yogi, who gives his life, who stands there and exits his body miraculously with all his chakras instantly extinguished. And that's what it is. It's this miraculous story. Miraculous story, great story, fantastic story. But then all the superheroes of the Marvel universe have similarly very inspiring stories. Just listen to Iron Man's origin story, very interesting indeed. Just listen to Batman's origin story, Superman's interesting origin story, how his planet was destroyed and how his parents put him into a rocket and sent him across the galaxies in a spaceship to land in the USA and be brought up by a couple, a loving, aged, childless couple. Beautiful origin story, but you know what? Beautiful origin stories are just that, they are beautiful, they are awe-inspiring, but they don't have to be true. The Marvel universe doesn't claim that any of their superheroes are true, but here is this person named Sadhguru Jaggi Vasudev claiming that his origin story is the truth, it's a cosmic truth. From what I'm seeing in this video, the dome-shaped structure over the Dhyana Linga, it's, I suppose, quite awe-inspiring. There are many structures which are very awe-inspiring. The Taj Mahal is one of them. Fatehpur Sikri is one of them. There are a number of structures which are very awe-inspiring. There are a number of temples which are very awe-inspiring. If you sit there in the right mood, it blows your mind. I have myself sat in these temples and yes, terrific atmosphere, very awe-inspiring. That doesn't mean that it has been brought together by some universal forces. When you say a temple is awe-inspiring because of its architecture, because of its mood, that's what it is. There are churches, amazing, awe-inspiring. They tempt you to come down on your knees, not because of any special spiritual power, it's just the way the architecture is. The architecture makes you feel awestruck. Let's acknowledge that. We are awestruck by beautiful things. We are awestruck by magnificent, gigantic, imposing, majestic structures. That's what it is. that doesn't imply divinity. He is implying divinity, ancient divinity. He is putting a lot of things there for which, as I keep saying, there is no evidence.